Delegates are called to order. I remind you that only certified lay delegates and clergy delegates with seat, voice, and vote, and those granted seat and voice are to be seated at the tables on the floor. All others should be seated in the guest area. And if you checked your phones during lunch, please remember to turn them off again. Thank you. Before we continue with the business, there are some announcements, and I call on Whitney Evans to present a UTO grant. Whitney Evans, present. Is Whitney Evans handy? No. Okay, we're going to move to the next one. She'll have to come back later. Wayne Kenyon, are you in the room? I guess I should have waited a second. He's coming. Okay. Wayne Kenyon. Wayne is the chaplain to the retired clergy, and he is going to come up and to recognize those who retired or announced retirement in 2016. But he's got to get some paper, I think. In the meantime, while we're waiting for him to come to the mic, I just want to introduce a couple of folks who are ordained this year. Some of them are not here in the room. They're serving in other dioceses. We have had 4 ordinations this year. Mia McDowell to the priesthood. Mia is back here. And Jimmy Hartley, who is assisting at St. David's. Jimmy, are you in the room? Where'd he go? Jimmy Hartley. Jimmy Hartley. Well, somewhere. 2 other ordinations to the transitional diaconate were Kristen Pitts, who is in the Diocese of Washington, D.C. at the moment, and Jane Allison Wiggin, who is now in the Diocese of Louisiana. So, but they will be ordained priests soon. Okay, Wayne, you want to come to the microphone?
Do we have the award?
You have the, what do you need?
We need.
Okay, well, you make your announcement.
Okay. We'll get this organized here in just a moment. Meanwhile, I'm the chaplain to the retired for this diocese. And so we have a good many retired clergy and their spouses and our widows, totaling about 200 for this diocese. And so part of what is involved is that each year we recognize those who are retiring. And this year we only have one real bona fide retiree, if I can get those words out. So Sally Johnson, who has served at St. Martin's in the Fields here in Columbia, is gone from being a true active member of the clergy now to being a truly retired one.
She's pretty active.
But yeah, the terms active and retired are misleading, I guarantee you. But in any case, so what we do is we give a, here we are. Okay. So. So she's got a paperweight that's specially marked. So now she doesn't need to work with paper. She gets it. Okay, just to mention a little more, that retired clergy is probably something of an oxymoron, and some are better at doing it than others. But there are a number of us who have, we do something for a while, assisting a church or something, then we back off, and then next thing you know, we're back in somewhere again. So we retire and re-retire and re-retire and so on. So we have a number of those around. So we're not making any special recognition for those, but just be aware that this is part of the pattern of our life as the retired clergy of the diocese. So, and did want to mention especially that Dale Klitsky served at St. Augustine of Canterbury for a stretch of time and has taken retirement. He was already a retiree, but he worked again and has taken retirement once again. So he's an example of what's true of many of us. And the reason I was tied up out there is that the committee working with the retired has put a whole bunch of fruit and some Gravette squares out there for your snacks during the afternoon. So, but yeah. I'll tell you one quick thing. We had a Cursillo weekend some time ago when we had too many brownies. And so to get rid of brownies, we had to come up with a formula that for each piece of healthy food, you need a piece of junk food. And we decided that was a balanced diet now between. So when you take a brownie, you got to take some fruit also. Amen.
I would say we have also had some announcements to retire. Those include the Reverend Johnny Davis, who's been chaplain at Still Hopes, who will retire later this month. Harold Morgan, who has been rector at All Saints Clinton, who will retire on January 1st, 2017. And Calvin Griffin, who will retire from St. Luke's, Columbia on January 16th, 2017. The Reverend Janet Tarbox moved from non-active to retired in 2016 as well. So that's kind of the official list. Do we now have Whitney Evans in the room? Okay, we do not. Sawani. We have, can I have Kirby Olson please come to the front? Is she there? There she is, okay, there. Didn't see, I thought everybody had left the room. Yeah.
Thank you, Right Reverend Sir. As a member of the Board of Trustees, Swanee brings you warm greetings. It's great to be here this weekend. I'd also like to thank Billy DeBose, fellow trustee, Rob Brown, fellow trustee, and fellow trustee, the Right Reverend Andrew Waldo. Indulge me for a minute. If you attended, graduated from the university or the seminary, please stand. Lickety-split, come on. Oh, come on, there are more of you that have graduated from Swanee or the seminary. Okay, if a son, don't sit down, don't, If a son or daughter or aunt or uncle or member of your extended family graduated from Swanee, would you please stand? Oh, come on. Don't be shy. If you've ever been to Swanee or taken part in a conference, please stand. There you go. Come on. Wow, thank you. Did you know? EFM, oh, come on. Or if you're a priest who has been to Swanee, thank you, Rob. Did you know that we own Swanee? It's very exciting because Swanee is larger than it has ever been before, and we are accepting far more superior students than we have before, and the diversity is growing every single season. We're part of a major capital campaign right now where we're raising an awful lot of money, $250 million. Part of that is going to go to the university for scholarships and for dormitories and for improved studies, but $250,000 of that, or a part of that, is going to go to moving the School of Theology back onto campus. This is a huge undertaking, and the bottom line, without going with any script, is we need every single parish to contribute to Sewanee. It's been an ongoing goal ever since the university was founded, and we're counting on each and every one of your parishes. So when you and the vestry vote on your upcoming budget, please put Sewanee in it, even if it's a small amount. Thank you. And now for our video.
Just one moment before we do the video. I just wanted to say that, now I just blanked. Can you believe that?
It keeps them human.
Oh, I remember. Sewanee is the only fully Episcopal school in the global communion. That is really remarkable. It is the only school that it is the university that has the closest ties to the provinces of the global communion of any university in the world. So it's really something that we own this.
Amen.
We have a video about Sewanee to watch.
As Vice Chancellor of the University of the South, and also as an historian, I have a particular appreciation both for the history of the university and also for the central role that the study of theology has played in the university almost from the moment of its founding.
The connection to the Episcopal Church is central to this place, but it's not oppressive. And that's a wonderful thing to have achieved.
The School of Theology's facilities need to be brought up to Sewanee's own standards. What we really need to do is move back to Central Campus.
The move back to the main campus will be unmistakable evidence to everyone about how central the School of Theology is to the university's purpose. It's the Episcopal Church's gift to the nation as a whole, and as far as that's concerned, beyond the nation, given the amount of international attention and participation at Sewanee, which is growing all the time.
This is a very exciting time for the School of Theology as we live into this vision that's before us, to now have seminarians and college students working side by side.
Moving back on campus with the relationships that we've already built and the ones that we're building, it allows us to be one.
We'll have access to resources that we need.
To me, it seems especially appropriate that as a seminary community, we would move to the heart of the neighborhood, and the heart of the neighborhood is Central Campus.
One thing that prevents people from entering into ministry or vocation is financial barriers, which could be erased with more funding for them.
Being able to provide more aid to more students opens up the number of students attending. Being a minority student, it also opens up the doors for more students who are underrepresented here to be able to attend the school.
With increased scholarship funding, we will be able to offer financial aid and enable people to come from all kinds of ethnic, socioeconomic, and geographic diversity.
The School of Theology has a greater commitment to preaching instruction than any school I'm aware of. What we don't have are the spaces to be able to do that as effectively as possible, so we have to squeeze into what's available in Hamilton Hall, and it's not adequate.
When we saw the first set of conceptual drawings by the architects for the School of Theology facility in Central Campus, we were amazed how well they understood us, how well they understood the program of the School of Theology, how well they understood the needs of the Beacon Center. It looks like something that was built in the 21st century, but at the same time it looks very Sewanee. The building will be outfitted with the very best learning technology. A feature of this building is a 260-seat auditorium that will be in the middle of the School of Theology building and for the use of the School of Theology, but it will also be a university auditorium. We don't think of the mission of the School of Theology as just serving those who are to be ordained, but a lot of our resources also go into lay education, lay formation, lay training of various sorts, lay empowerment, shaping faith into action, as we say at the Beacon Center.
I'm really excited about the new building because it's going to give us different sized training spaces and rooms with technology and allow us to do training and workshops that we've just not had the facilities for before. We're going to have spaces for overnight accommodation for our guests who come here for training and for different opportunities that the Beacon Center will be offering.
We've tried to create a building where everybody is actively engaged in conversation, in academic learning, in spiritual formation.
Our students will have more spaces where they will have opportunities for their formation to continue outside of the classroom.
There'll be many more gathering places for our students to congregate in between classes, after lectures, on their way back from worship. Cultivating of those relationships is so important to residential theological education.
We in the Episcopal Church are living in one of those moments where we really have a window of opportunity to make a transforming difference in the life of the Episcopal Church so that we can make a transforming difference in the world. I've often said as I travel around the church that we are the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement today. The School of Theology at the University of the South is one of the ways that we form leaders for the church who can help to provide the kind of leadership that can help the church and the people of God make a transforming difference in our world for Jesus Christ. I encourage your support. I encourage the support of the School of Theology because we want to change the world for the better, and the School of Theology is helping us do that. So God bless you, and you keep the faith.
Thank you. A few more announcements I want to get off the docket here. I want to announce the transitions we've had since the last convention. We've had the Reverend Bill Greeley is now at Good Shepherd York as priest in charge. The Reverend Todd Oswald is now vicar at Trinity Abbeyville. Why don't you do a quick stand-up when I call your name? Let's see. There we go. You guys and Bill. Paul Abernathy to Epiphany Lawrence as rector. The Reverend Stephen Boley to Stephen Boley was at St. Andrews as interim rector, but now we have another transition there, which is Gary Eichelberger, who has been called as rector at St. Andrews in Greenville. Tom DeMarco at St. Albans, Lexington as priest in charge. Jill Beimdeek to St. Mary's, Columbia as interim rector. Suze Kate to Holy Trinity, Clemson as rector. Susan White to St. John's, Winsboro as priest in charge. Actually, let's hold off on the applause. I'll get through the list, and then that'll Jimmy. But those of you who've stood, go ahead and stand up again, and the rest of you stand as I call your name. Jimmy Hartley to St. David's, Columbia as curate. Over here. David Thompson to Church of the Ridge as priest in charge. Tom Nickel to St. Martin's in the Fields in Columbia as interim priest in charge. Charles Smith to St. Michael and All Angels, Columbia as rector. Paul Strickland to Calvary Glen Springs as priest in charge. Richard Crozier to Chapel of the Holy Spirit, Still Hopes, West Columbia as chaplain. And the Reverend Dane Boston left Trinity to accept a call in the Diocese of Albany. But let's give these folks who are here a hand. Some other departures include John Neiman left Holy Trinity Clemson to go to the Diocese of Maine. Henry Tollison ended his tenure at Epiphany Spartanburg. Wayne Kenyon ended his tenure at St. Thomas Eastover. Bill Anderson ended his tenure at St. Peter's Great Falls. Dale Klitsky retired from St. Augustine of Canterbury. Johnny Davis is to retire from Chapel of the Holy Spirit, Still Hopes, later this month. Jordan Hilden and Emily Hilden accepted positions in the Diocese of Dallas. Lewis Miller retired from Nativity Union, and Sally Johnston from St. Martin's in the Field, Columbia. Thank you to all of them for their good good work over these years. I want to say, for those of you who wonder about what happens at Diocesan House in the course of a month, when you see a list like that, the transitions really are quite a time-consuming thing, and that we spend quite a bit of time making sure that you have good clergy serving you, and that we have a fabulous College of Clergy in this diocese, for all of whom I'm grateful. Whitney Evans is going to come up now and to present a UTO grant to Gravit, and we have a video to watch about that too.
Good afternoon. As the bishop said, my name is Whitney Evans. I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as the president of our Diocesan Episcopal Church Women. As part of that duty, I guess Kathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the United Thank Offering falls under the Episcopal Church Women's purview. It is not only a ministry of the Episcopal Church Women, however, so I want to encourage all of you in your churches, if you don't have an active ECW, you can still have an active UTO. If you're not familiar with the United Thank Offering, you probably know what those little blue boxes look like, and the little coins that you drop into those boxes add up to great amounts. The idea is that we all have small things every day for which we should be grateful, and when you feel grateful about a small thing, you drop a small penny or a quarter or however grateful you feel into that box. Nationally, all of that money goes up and makes a very large amount. We really enjoy it, however, when some of that money comes back down, which is why I'm here today. Camp Gravit applied for one of our national UTO grants and won $47,000. Yes. So we're just very happy that those blessings have come back to our diocese. And I want to encourage all of you, if you're not familiar with the UTO or you'd like to get it started in your parishes, have some boxes. Some of them are already seated with some coins to be thankful for all of you who are here today. And I'm going to let Laurie talk a little bit more about where that money is going to go and the impact that it's going to have. But I thank you all for participating, and I encourage those of you who have not to please prayerfully consider doing so.
Thank you, Whitney. And again, my name is Laurie Sojourner. I'm the executive director at Gravit. I have been at Gravit for 9 years, and I'm so excited to accept this grant on behalf of Gravit. For those of you who don't know, we are a retreat and summer camp located in Aiken County, and we are an institution of this diocese. A big part of what we do, a big part of our mission is environmental stewardship. And so we were really excited when the UTO was focusing this year on the fifth mark of mission. And so we applied to create 3 new outdoor learning centers at Gravit. And so what you're going to see in the next few months, and actually have already begun, one of our outdoor learning centers, we were actually almost complete. It includes a camp out area, a hammock village, and a farm classroom. So that's part 1, installment 1. Installment 2 will start in a couple of weeks, and we'll actually have an AmeriCorps NCCC team coming in to help make this next phase happen, and that's the building of a tree house. And I've had lots of people ask me where that tree house is going to be. If you're familiar with Gravit, it's going to be deep in the woods near the tower. And if you aren't familiar with Gravit and you want to come out, I'll be happy to walk you out there and show you where that's going to be. But this tree house will be used for campouts. It'll be used as an environmental classroom as well. And one of the features of the tree house, on the ground part of the tree house, we're going to have a composting toilet out there as well. So opportunities for education and not having to take a hike back to camp or use a tree. So, and then part 3 of the grant will go toward the building of a new, more permanent labyrinth, and that will also include a meditation area which can be used as outdoor classroom space. We're really excited to see how we'll be able to integrate all 3 of these areas into our retreat for our retreat guests, as well as the summer camp program. And I'll use that as a segue. I think that they're going to show a video now of our summer camp program that was created by one of our summer camp counselors who is a young parishioner at St. David's. Claire Walters made this video for us this summer. So thank you so much for all of your pennies and dimes and quarters and your wonderful support of Gravette.
Welcome to Camp Gravette, a place in the woods that will find a place in your heart.
Never seen a view.
Good morning, Camp Gravette.
Amazing things happen at Gravette. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Whitney. This is great. Send your kids to Gravette and your grandkids. Two more introductions. There are three to introduce. Two of them are here. Our seminarians. Chris Wilkerson. Chris, where are you? Here. Chris is a senior at Sewanee, and Jen Pilot is a junior at Virginia Seminary. Mike Cannon is a middler at Sewanee. Mike is in England right now, so he is not with us, but it's wonderful to have you all here. So, good work. Last of all, before we continue with the business, we have a song to sing. Today is Margaret Jennings Todd's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Margaret. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. All right. Okay, the chair recognizes the Reverend Deacon Ann Pilot, who is serving as head teller of our convention.
It's a tough act to follow.
Pull your microphone down, son.
Yes, sir. I'll need to find the page. 22. Good afternoon. Just a reminder that election 1 was by acclamation, but the following individuals have been elected to the Diocesan Executive Committee, Clergy Order. The Reverend Fletcher Montgomery, the Reverend Dorian Del Priore, and the Reverend Patricia Sexton. Election 2, the Diocesan Executive Council Lay Order. 3 individuals were elected, and they are Mr. Larry Moore, Dr. Marie Martin, and Ms. Susan Palmer. Election 3, General Convention Deputy Clergy Order. The Reverend Furman Buchanan, the Reverend Mike Flanagan, the Reverend Alan Leonard, and the Reverend Susan Prinz. Election 4, General Convention Deputy Lay Order. The following individuals were elected: Ms. Scooty Birch, Ms. Angela Daniel, Dr. Nora Grimble, and Ms. Marianne Park. Election 5, Ecclesiastical Board, Clergy Order. Slavin Manning, the Reverend Slavin Manning, was elected. And just by way of a reminder, election 7, University of the South Board of Trustees, Lay Order, Ms. Molly Dugal was elected by acclamation. Thank you.
And no election in 6.
There was no election 6.
No one nominated. Thank you, Ann. Congratulations to all of you who were elected. We look forward to serving together. The chair recognizes microphone 1.
Gary Eichelberger at St. Andrews. Just a point of clarification, was Patricia Sexton elected as an alternate?
Yes, she is first alternate in this.
I just didn't hear that.
Yes. President of Executive Council.
Right, Reverend Sir, last year we were asked as a DEC to come up with a policy for how to deal with endowment spending. And after many months and hard work by a small group, we came up with the policy that is printed in your packets. And I don't think I need to read every bit of it. But basically what this enables us to do is to move from being what we have been doing in the past, which is burying all our talents in the ground and waiting for Jesus to come back before we spend it, to instead those who, for us to enable that to happen. And one of the main points of this that I want to point out is that we're taking percentages of earnings. We're not taking anything from principal in any of these. Any new funds we intend to, until they make such money as to have 120% of their initial gift, that we only may spend that same percentage that we have outlined in this policy towards the things for which they're intended. Our goal is to not spend down our endowment, but use the income from it in order to promote some of the wonderful programs that we feel are important in our diocese, and some of the things that we haven't been able to afford in our SOM to make sure they happen. Now, you're going to hear great news about our budget and our SOM over the past couple of years. That does not mean that we aren't going to begin using these funds because we've been good stewards, but it means that these are here for us to do some great things by using the gifts that were given to us. So this policy is what we intend to use this year. One or two of the convocations at the convocation meeting had suggestions for alterations to this particular policy.
Reverend James Newberger, Treasurer of the Diocese.
I noticed, Grant, that with your presentation of the
diocesan spending policy that willy-nilly has left the building. Before I begin, I was asked this morning, where in the diocesan house is my office? Yeah. Well, I do not have an office in the building. Everything that you see before you in terms of reports, for my tenure as treasurer, I have been blessed to work with a wonderful individual, our former Chief Financial Officer, Alicia Hudson. And she has worked tirelessly, diligently, carefully to prepare and help us understand the blessings that we have had showered upon us by many benefactors that all come together in these various reports. And I believe Alicia is here. Did I see her come in the building?
Let's hold off on that for a minute. We'll get back to that.
Okay, well,
We'll get back to that.
if you're here, Alicia, and I believe you are, I want to thank you on my behalf. You have made my job as treasurer so much easier. Now to the reports. The treasurer's report for our financial condition consists of the year ending December 2015 statement of mission, our budget report, and our expense and balance sheet. At the end of 2015, it's the white exhibit in your packets, we had total income of $2,802,000 in some miscellaneous. And this amount was $173,000 more than our anticipated income in the statement of mission. Our total expenses were $2,479,000, which was $149,000 less than our anticipated and approved expenses for that year. As a result, the 2015 statement of mission closed out with a balance of $322,731. Really good. However, this unexpected and non-repeating surplus in 2015 resulted from the perfect storm of the confluence of three factors. Our being blessed with an increase in the percentage of pledged income received in 2015 over 2014. More came in 2015 than we were anticipating. We closely conserved the funds that were allocated in 2015, and we received an unexpected gift income that we applied, that has been applied to future capital expenses, for which we did not have a sinking fund. Looking at this in a little more detail, in 2014, the previous year, we estimated that we would receive $2,691,000. However, we closed the year and all their approved spend closed out their year only $94,000 of what was approved, which produced a $149,000 deficit. Now, while this responsive stewardship was taking place, we were blessed to have pledged income rise a 100 unplanned, and we have gone into sometime in the spring, giving basically from the all of the head 2 sets of review and
minister to them. This is not an easy task,
and it's very hard for me to do by myself. Line item 40, where we requested $66,000 for a chaplain for USC, was denied, and I would like to dispute that time. The second would be part-time, and I, of course, would prefer the first.
Are you making a motion, a specific
Yes.
motion? Okay.
Okay. So for a full-time chaplain at USC, the following is what I propose. From line item 10, reduce 5,000 to 2,000. Reduce 7,500. Line item 12, reduce 3,000 to 2,000, as that is what they requested. Line item 16, reduce from 3,607 to 1,200. In line item 22, reduce 2,000 to 700. In 24, 3,007. Item 25, reduce 6,400 to 4,000. Line item 26, reduce 7,000 to 2,500. Line item 29, 59. Item 30, reduce 6,780 to 4,630. Line item 39, reduce 18,000 to 15,000, as that is what they requested. Line item 45, reduce 16,090 to 0. I know it says that they requested 0. I have heard that they just submitted their request late. Reduce line item 64 from 134 to 40 to 116,600. Line item 65 from 30,000 to 28,000. 84 reduced from 500 to 0. Line item 85 reduced from 1,000 to 0. Line item 86 reduced from 500 to 0. And line item 93 reduced from 1,500 to 1,000. This would result in $73,127 for a full-time chaplain.
Thank you for this. What we're going to have to do is to take, this is out of order for the moment, but what we're going to do is take this. If we can take it, because he needs to move the budget, and once he moves the budget and then we open for discussion, we can just sort of stick this back at what you've offered us. But what do you have it written down?
I have it all written down, yes.
Okay, we will need that when the time comes, and then we can have further discussion about that at that point. So,
May I make one comment?
please.
When you come back for the discussion, while you're waiting, would you summarize the changes by each commission?
Okay.
So total them and put them under the
total
commission.
changes by commission, because what happens is we allocate monies to the commissions, and then the commissions themselves take those sums of money and allocate.
And they decide which actual specific lines. So you can simplify it for us all if you put it according to the commission, and then we can work with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, right, Reverend Sir, I move that the 2017 Statement of Mission be adopted.
Is there a second? No, don't need it. It's committee. Sorry. Is there discussion? Now we go. Take that. We'll need that. If you have comments on this budget, we ask that you limit them to 2 minutes per delegate. When you're recognized to speak, it's important for you to state your name and your congregation as in the past. So,
Alan Leonard, St. Margaret's. Point of order on the proposal by the peer minister. In accordance with our Constitution, the peer minister has seat and voice but not vote. Therefore, I do not believe he can make a motion to amend the budget. He will need to find someone else to move amendment to the budget as he suggested.
opposed. Members, so let's hold on.
And chair of the chaplain at the University of South Carolina, we could just do that.
Hold on just a minute. So what is your motion?
My motion is to fund the chaplain at the University of South Carolina out of the $313,000 surplus that we recognize this year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Suze Kate, Holy Trinity, Clemson, where there is also a need for a chaplain, and we have a very pretty much sole responsibility for, again, combing through a large student body to seek and serve the Episcopalians and others in that student body. So I'd like for Clemson to also be considered in this discussion. Thank you.
Do you want to amend the motion?
Yes.
Is it in writing?
No,
Please?
but I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Let's come back. Thank you. Microphone number 1, and please state whether you're speaking for or against the motion before you begin.
Fergie Horvath, St. Christopher's. Don't know if I'm for or against, but I just wanted to say, in response to Mark's comment, I love the idea of funding from the surplus, but not just for 1 year. Thought out process. And as a parent of a child who has graduated years ago from another university in another state, who was surrounded by Episcopal churches, and there was nothing for her. Shame on us.
Thank you. Susan.
Cindy Scaffey, Church of the Good Shepherd, Columbia.
Can somebody tighten that mic stand for us there? Oh, you got it? There we go. Is it?
Okay, I'm against the motion because there is no more irresponsible budgetary tactic than to create a new position using one-time funds. If we want to create a new position, we need to use recurring funding. Otherwise, we're here next year with no money to pay the salary of the person we hired this year.
Thank you. Microphone number 1, Jim.
Jim Barnes, St. George's Episcopal Anderson.
Can you turn the mic? Can you pull the mic up so that it's right in front of you?
I have a question because I'm not sure I fully understood what was being proposed. He said 30,000.
Please speak directly into the mic at all times. Thank
there
you.
were 30,000 students at the University of South Carolina. I understand that. Are all 30,000 Episcopalians? The question I'm asking is, what is the number of Episcopalian students at the University of South Carolina? I assume at the University of South Carolina there are people of other religions who are also mentored by chaplains from their denominations.
Thank you. Microphone number, just a moment, Treasurer, Jim.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that while we ended the 2015 with the $322,000 surplus, the DEC has already approved using $150,000 of that to cover what we were anticipating taking from endowments to cover some of the ministries in the 2017. So in 22,000 we are
talking to them from a diocese of students there, and we need to seize campus funding, a chaplain for Canterbury, finding a way for Clemson to fund a chaplain at other needs of Canterbury chaplain desperately.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Kelly, the peer ministers, to make sure they have the resources they need on their college campuses. And I wanted to address the question from the gentleman, an average of 15 hours a week. Advertising.
Rob Brown, St. Matthew's, Spartanburg, former chaplain for Walford and Converse College. And I'm sorry, it wasn't an impossible task 15 years ago when we had plenty of volunteer chaplains in the churches, in the cities where the schools were located. We did it because we cared about college ministry. We did it because we cared. Students who are now involved laity probably sitting in this very room. What we need to have is a commitment by the clergy in the schools are to support campus ministry, to agree to work with the students and support those peer ministers. Somebody said, you know, shame on the Episcopal churches that I believe were around Western Carolina for not doing enough. It's up to us in here to make a difference for those schools. We used to have a full-time minister, a chaplain at the University of South Carolina, and we had a stronger ministry after we had to do it ourselves. You know, we can talk about this for hours and hours.
There can be a lot of reasons why it doesn't work.
Exactly. What we need to have is a core group of your clergy and your laity in those communities making a commitment to work with those colleges and work with the students and work with the peer ministers. We also used to get lists from our churches that we sent to the peer ministers of the students going from our church to that school. That's one way. You end up with a group already in place. We did it with folks that were involved in happening. There are ways to do this that don't involve us creating a potential deficit down the road.
Thank you. Charles, you were next, I think.
Charles Smith, St. Michael and All Angels in Columbia. I think the question of how many Episcopalians would be served at USC or any other campus by having a chaplain is the wrong question, actually. I grew up a Baptist, my wife grew up a Baptist, and I'm an Episcopalian today because of Father Bill Blotner, college chaplain at John's Memorial Episcopal Church. My wife is an Episcopalian because of Father Bill Blotner at John's Memorial Episcopal Church. Our goal, right, our motto is to make, form, and equip mature Christian disciples. Notice the bishop didn't say to make, form, and equip mature Episcopalians only.
Make, equip, and send.
And send, sorry. But I was close, though, like 90%. But, you know, the point is, though, it's about helping these young people become better Christians so that they can live out their faith in the world. And if we do a good job of that, probably some of them will also become Episcopalians eventually as well. You, Canterbury, I can't uncomfortable.
St. Christopher going to summer camp and being active in college ministry. And if you were in a state school in the Diocese of Kentucky, were accessible or access to the model that was in 10,000 Episcopal. The vicar who came out of that, eventually they became a full-time parish. Subsidized half of their salary from the Diocese of Kentucky to be a campus chaplain, and the church itself funded the other half. And then organized and empowered is about the same size. USC, maybe the size, close committed and had been committed for decades to campus ministry in all three. And it can happen here, like Rob Brown said, through commitment and love. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Miranda.
Miranda DeMarco, St. Albans, Lexington. I'm a retired college professor, and one of the things that our Dean of Students would have the faculty do is show up on move-in day and help those parents move their students onto campus. And I can't tell you how many times look of just these exhausted, their entire cases of water and their arms. Because at the College of Charleston, you're parking on the street and you cannot leave your car there. You have to unload and then find some other place, like a parking garage. These church members would be by our stuff while we found parking. Sometimes we think, what money can we throw at fill in the blank? It's our presence as Christians. That is what is important. If we can organize our congregations to show up at a campus, and in Spartanburg there are 6, is that right, Rob? There are 6 campuses there. How many are there in the Columbia area? If we can organize our congregations to be present at move-in day, have encountered that statement, well, what do y'all do as Episcopalians? What happens behind that red door?
gavel to the presidents to make a comment on this. We have had just about every visitation that I am on, many of them, a whole bunch of them, that Upper South Carolina coast are the only that pay for it. So somehow this has to be something that we do together. If we can figure out a way to do it over an extended period, then we might even be able to figure out how to use some of these funds over 3 or 4 years. But which schools get the money? Do we then just fund one full-time position at one school? You guys decide whether it's going to be USC or Clemson. I ain't getting in the middle of that one. Alabama's playing at 8 tonight. But how do we decide how to allocate those funds so that we can have a person on campus in our some programs that are run as Rob was describing with clergy and folks in congregations, some that have a full-time priest on campus so that we have important decisions of their lives. How do we make that happen? I've had a couple of rectors come to me and said, no matter how important it is, my congregation just can't come up with the money. How do we do it? This is probably one of the most important things before us in terms of mission and ministry, whether or not the kids are Episcopalian. I think the president wants to give the gavel back to me.
Yes, he's trying to walk away.
Grant.
I'm Grant Wiseman, rector of St. Thaddeus. A couple things I want to point out. We have all the money in the world to do this. It's still in our pockets. $581,000 of non-committed pledges sit out in our budget. We budget with the expectation that $581,000 of what we've asked for doesn't come. That includes churches like my own, where we do 94% and have been working every year to get to 100%. But the fact of the matter is, we have the ability if people are willing to make the commitment. What we're asking right now is for people to cut a lot of other things that we believe are important in order to do those things. Or we've got to come up with it in a separate way. And my suggestion would be that we look to these funds, the endowment funds that we have, and ask our commissions to go ahead and put together a plan for this from those restricted funds for a 3-year program for there to be chaplaincy in our 2 major universities to start, to help them seed their programs and move forward to add to the rest of the colleges that we can afford to do that with over time. But I think if we continue to try to do it from our budget, we're never going to make it because everybody's going to not pay that $581,000. Instead, I think we need to be prepared to look at those funds instead of bury them in the ground and do it.
Thank you, Grant. Microphone number 2. Introduce yourself, please. Name and congregation.
My name's Amy Hayslip, and I'm from St. Michael and All Angels Episcopal Church. And I got 2 things. My first thing is that you mentioned earlier that you liked the idea of I think the word was ecumenical, like working with other denominations of church. And since we already have peer ministers on campus, and if we want to have a full-time chaplain on different campuses, we could work with other churches and work together to fund a full-time chaplain and save money that way, and work with those other denominations, saving money and working to raise good Christians together. And then the peer ministers could go out and spread the specific Episcopalian message. But that way, it kind of is a win-win. way, but we split the actual money problem
Right.
between ourselves.
Some have claimed that our problem is an income problem, not an expense problem. I'm going to buy into that, y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then my second thing was to, with the getting people to pledge. I found one of the best ways to get people to pledge is actually kind of, I mean, like, this sounds really, okay, this sounds really obvious, but pledging by example, because I actually, like, stood up in the middle of the meeting at church, and because Mother Jill, who was our vicar at the time, was saying that we could have a youth minister if everyone pledged like $258 more. And so I did out the math, and I didn't have a job at the time, but I did out the math and figured out that if I just didn't eat lunch on Friday, I could do that. And so I was like, and so I stood up and said, okay, you guys, I'm going to do that. And I'm 16 and don't have a job, but you know what? I can do that out of my lunch money. And then we met our goal because of that. And that's one of the things, is that a lot of times money is a private thing in our culture, and we feel like it's something that we don't talk about. But you know, pledging is something you need to be proud about, and that, you know, we need to bring a culture of being proud that you've pledged.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Alan Leonard, St. Margaret's. I'm not sure whether I'm for or against, because I'm fully in favor of funding a chaplain for USC, and I think we ought to spend the next year considering funding a chaplain for Clemson and continue working on ways to fund these things. That ought to be considered as we go through the SOM for the coming year. I am concerned about the areas that were cut in order to come up with the funding for this, and there were so many of them I couldn't keep track, so I'm not sure where the money's coming from. I did hear the suggestion that it could come from surplus or other places. I think that would be great. I'd be nervous voting in favor of this until I'm clear about exactly where the money's coming from. And if someone can answer that question, that'd be super.
Thank you.
Tom's there.
Joint number 2.
Right. The motion that is on the floor is a motion to fund it. Actually, the motion on the floor is to fund it by cutting some items.
But it was amended.
It was amended. Okay, that's right. Surplus. Okay. Seconded by Charles. Okay, so the amendment, the motion on the floor is the amendment to use surplus funds to fund the chaplain. So we're going to have to vote on that amendment. So speak to that amendment at the moment. This is whether or not to use surplus funds. And that's the only thing I want to listen. If you're not going to speak about that, don't speak just yet.
Point of order, Bishop. Was that amendment accepted by the movement? Doesn't he have to accept
it? Doesn't. No. His motion is still on the floor. It's been moved to be amended, though, to have the source of the money come from a different place. He doesn't have to accept it. It's been moved and seconded. So if there is if there's
a motion on the motion, yeah.
It's a motion to amend to take the money from the surplus, and if that is approved, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Question has been called. All in favor of using surplus? No. All in favor of closing debate? Say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I don't think the amendment was ever made and seconded. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was. It was. We have it recorded as made and amended. Made by Mark Abdelnour, seconded by Charles.
Okay. Sorry. I apologize.
Okay. Now we are going to vote on the motion to amend, which is a motion to consider funding a position. I believe right now what's on the floor is a motion to fund a position at USC. Is that correct? With funds from surplus.
Are we talking about whether to fund it or to discuss funding it?
Fund it.
Right. The motion is to fund it with surplus money. Am I correct? That is correct. The question?
Come to the mic.
Come to the microphone, please.
Point of order. I think right now we're just voting on whether to amend the motion, and then if we amended it, then
That's correct. Then we will vote on whether we fund. Yes. That's correct. That's correct. Okay, so we're voting to amend the motion. All in favor of amending the motion to use funds from the surplus as opposed to taking them out of existing budget items, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. No. The noes have it. Okay. So we are now back at the original motion to cut other items in order to fund this proposal. Yes.
Suze Kate, Holy Trinity, Clemson. I now have an amendment to the motion. In the event that funding is allocated for support of campus ministry, each existing campus ministry should benefit to a degree that is sustainable and significant. And I have it in writing.
What was the last bit of that?
Sustainable.
That each existing campus ministry should benefit to a degree that is sustainable and significant.
Is there a second?
I think it would need to be more specific. We
More
need to have an
specific.
actual. We need to have dollar amounts, because if we hire, if somebody gets hired, we got to know how much it's going to cost and how much we have to spend on it.
And where it's going to come from.
Right, and where that money's going to come from.
By our bylaws, we need to have, if you're going to ask for more money to be spent from somewhere, you have to take it from somewhere within this SOM.
I want to make a suggestion, if I can. I've just passed the gavel. I wonder if this is a moment when it is clear that we have some passion in the room on this subject, about which I am delighted. How about we form a task force and let's work on this. And I'm expecting a line of people to apply for that task force. Doesn't mean you're all going to get on it. But I want to see a line of people, and we will come back to bring a proposal to this convention. Maybe work something out through DEC too. But
in order to do that, he has to then
can
withdraw
I make
his
a
motion.
Thomas has to withdraw. Well, Rilla does. It's Rilla's motion.
No. All right. Right now, we have a motion on the floor, which is to change the budget. Is this?
I would like to.
You speaking to that motion?
Yeah, I would like to offer an amendment to that motion. First of all, I want to thank you for your courage and for speaking.
Hear, hear.
Speaking very clearly and plainly to the other non-recurring asset problem that we have, which is people in the Episcopal Church of a young age. Apathetic about using recurring funds for recurring purposes. In the vein of that, I would like to make an amendment suggest an amendment that we take every bit of the remainder of the 300-something thousand surplus, whatever that number was it 170-something?
Approximately.
That all of that funding be dedicated to the line item, but rename it campus ministry. And let that be the seed money that this task force will begin with to figure out what is a sustainable practice to be spread around.
Is there a second to that amendment? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Dadgum.
Okay, now we have to vote on the actual motion.
Now we are, and that is, and let me just clarify, that is to replace any, the deductions from other items in the budget. That's correct? Okay, so we are now voting to use the non-allocated surplus to fund a task force, that a task force can use in its work to create a plan. Is that? No. And for campus ministries to use.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order. I make a motion to table this so that we can set up the task force and come back with a proposal.
That could be a year.
It
Is
could
there
also-
a set? He's made a motion. Is there a second? Any discussion on the motion to table?
We already voted to do it.
That's true. We did. We voted to do it already. We just voted to do it.
No, we voted.
Right?
No, we voted to accept the motion.
We voted to accept the amendment. No, you're right. We have a motion to table. And it's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion to table? All in favor of tabling the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The nays have it. So now we are going to vote on substituting the surplus funds for monies that Thomas proposed in his original resolution. All in favor of that substitution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay.
Now we have to accept move this.
Okay.
Amended
72.
SOM.
Yes. We believe the number is actually about 72,000. Okay. Is this a point? Is this if it's about the amendment, we're done with that now. We're moving on. Okay. If we're done with that piece, unless it's a new subject.
See, I think they just approved
All right.
only for his motion.
Let's move on.
It was about the surplus.
We're back in business.
It was clearly about the surplus.
Any other comments on the budget? The budget has been presented for 2017. Any other comments on the budget? Any other discussion? Microphone number 2, Harold Morgan.
Harold Morgan from All Saints Clinton. Bishop, could you just clarify what the state of this is? I'm left confused.
The state is that we had a surplus of which Jim Newberger informs me about 72,000 has not been. You want to clarify that? Is it about 72,000 has not been allocated?
That's 106, right?
Did you say 172 or 72, Jim?
No, I was saying 72 for just.
No, his motion.
Oh, for his.
No.
Oh.
No, but his motion is no longer, that's been changed.
Okay,
It's
all right.
what's the total surplus?
Say how much is left unallocated. Just the number.
This is head math. 322 minus 150.
So it's about 170.
Right, and what I
Okay.
would like, while I've got the microphone, I'd like to know, since it's changes to this SOM,
Right.
what line items
40.
change?
It was suggested to put it all into the campus ministry budget.
Right.
That was the motion, to put it in the campus ministry line.
Which line
Line
item?
40.
So line item is, the name of it is changed to campus ministry.
Correct.
All right. And the amount goes from 0
yeah.
to
172.
172. And
That means our,
then line 7 then goes from 150, which we will fund from the surplus, goes up to 322.
yep,
That's correct.
Correct?
And
That is
that
correct.
balances the
That's
budget.
correct. That
That's
balances
correct.
We keep her in balance.
Right,
Yep.
okay. Thank you. I think we're good. You got it? Got what you need? Okay.
Right.
We are now back at we still have to approve the whole budget. It's already been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the budget? All in favor of the 2017 budget as amended, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? There we go. Thank you. Thank you. The chair recognizes Mrs. Regina Rattery, Chair of the Committee on Resolutions.
This is where it could take.
Ms.
You know, you guys just get these numbers up willy-nilly.
The Right Reverend Sir.
Silence in the courtroom.
The Resolutions Committee met during the lunch break to review the two resolutions that were introduced this morning. The first one being the resolution to increase youth participation in the governance of the church. On behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move this with amendment. In the first resolve, you would strike the words recruit, elect, so that now reads, resolved that we recommend all parishes consider electing at least one confirmed youth who is a communicant in good standing to be certified as a lay delegate. The remainder of the resolution would remain the same.
The Committee on Resolutions recommends and moves for the resolution to be amended. Since it comes from a committee, it does not need a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of amending the proposed resolution as offered by the committee, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so now
Now we need to vote on the motion itself. Wait, we're not there yet. So therefore, we've voted on the amendment. So now we need to vote on the actual resolution. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
The second resolution concerning mission was discussed, and the committee decided to refer it to the Commission on Congregations. Since returning to the floor, we heard that there was a suggested amendment to clarify that, and the committee decided we would be willing to hear that amendment.
Okay.
Right,
Reverend Deacon
Sir,
Walters.
Fred Walters from Church of the Good Shepherd. First, I'd like to apologize, Bishop, you and everyone here, for Canon Chassey's not being able to be here to do this himself. His health just is such he could not stay for the afternoon. So on behalf of Canon Chassey, please accept his apology. Following some discussions with the bishop, as far as with the Commission on Resolutions, with the chairman of the Commission for Congregations, we would offer the following amendment to the resolution for mission. The three whereas clauses would remain the same. Everything thereafter would be stricken and the following substituted in lieu thereof, so that it would say, therefore be it resolved by the 95th Convention of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina that the Commission for Congregation lay before the 95th Diocesan Convention the framework for a 5-year plan for mission and church development, and be it further resolved that any incremental expense incurred in preparing such framework may be met by funds from the Nora Zimmerman Trust Fund. That is a trust that specifically allows for the development of new mission churches. The real genesis now of this is to merely put before the Commission for Congregations the onus of preparing a general framework of how the expansion of new missions to be planted may be considered in the future. And we would submit that as an amendment, Bishop.
Is there a second? Is there discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to vote on the resolution itself. That's right.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the resolution as amended? All in favor? Oh, there is. Is that right? Okay.
I'm just saying we don't have a copy of that, at least at our table. I've never been able to read it to see what it says. So
It is referring to, I don't have the exact text in front of me. Let's have why don't you bring it up here and then I can read it again to the gathered body. Thank you. Yep. Got it. It says, therefore be it resolved, the three whereases are the same. Therefore be it resolved by the 94th Convention of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina that the Commission for Congregations lay before the 95th Diocesan Convention the framework for a 5-year plan for mission and church development, and be it further resolved that any expenses incurred in preparing such framework may be met by funds from the Nora Zimmerman Trust Fund. Any discussion? All in favor of the resolution for mission as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Gina?
Right, Reverend Sir. This concludes the business of the Resolutions Committee before this convention.
Thank you. I call on Ms. Carrie Graves, Canon for Communications, to offer announcements. No? You have a couple of announcements? You don't? You can just do it from there if you want. Okay, okay. The chair recognizes Reverend James Barnhill, Chair of the Nominations Committee.
Right, Reverend Sir, on behalf of the committee, I recommend the approval of the following outgoing Diocesan Executive Council members to serve on the 2016 Nominations Committee. They are Mr. Earl Birch, Mr. John Clarkson, the Reverend Scott Fleischer, the Reverend Deacon Ann Pilot, the Reverend Grant Weisman, Dr. Marie Martin.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Right, Reverend Sir, on behalf of the committee, I also recommend the outgoing president of the Diocesan Executive Council to serve as convener of the 2017 Nominations Committee, the Reverend Grant Weisman.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Right, Reverend Sir, here endeth the lesson.
Thank you for all of you who will serve in that capacity for your willingness to do so. I offer, I need just one moment, I need to find the piece of paper here. Well, tear it out. There we go. I offer for approval by this convention 2 proclamations. Here is the first. Whereas Alicia Hudson has served as Chief Financial Officer of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina, as well as served in other significant roles in the diocese these past 5 years and brought meaning and structure to the position of Chief Financial Officer. And whereas Alicia has faithfully served our diocese with grace and thoughtfulness and excellent stewardship, showing steadfastness and dedication to her work and extensive attention to detail in shepherding the work of the diocese through its financial resources. And whereas Alicia has demonstrated excellence in committing herself to her work with the Executive Council, commissions, committees, clergy, parishes, and staff of the diocese, and whereas she has accepted a new call worthy of her gifts, she will be missed, and it is our fond wish and prayer that she will continue to present her work as an example to those called to ministry everywhere. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the clergy and people of the 94th Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Upper South Carolina, along with the 8th Bishop of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina, do hereby extend and proclaim our thanks, gratitude, and appreciation for her unwavering commitment to our endeavor to serve God in this time and place. With great appreciation and respect, we wish her continued grace as she goes out to serve the Church in areas of ministry close to her heart. Alicia. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Hip hip hurrah. The second proclamation of appreciation. Whereas the Reverend Fletcher Montgomery, Margaret Axon, Michelle Rabin, the staff of St. John's Columbia, and the people of St. John's Columbia who supported the work of convention have extended radical hospitality to all members of the 94th Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Upper South Carolina. And whereas the Diocesan Youth Leadership Committee, Madeline Smith, Margaret Axon, and the children and youth of St. John's Columbia, and the children's choirs of St. John's, St. Martin's in the Fields, Columbia, and St. Michael and All Angels, Columbia, have participated in, assisted with, and energized this gathering with their presence. And whereas the numerous volunteers at St. John's, Columbia, under the direction of the Reverend Fletcher Montgomery, Margaret Axon, and Michelle Rabin, have given generously of their time and talent in organizing and preparing materials for this convention. And whereas the Convention Committee, under the direction of our Convention Secretary, Beth Hendricks, and the staff of the Diocesan House have worked diligently to make this a well-ordered and efficient convention. And whereas the Order of the Daughters of the King have held this body in prayer throughout our work and deliberations. And whereas Dr. John Dozier, Chief Diversity Officer and Director of Community Engagement, Office of Diversity and Inclusion at the University of South Carolina, and Dr. Brent Driggers, Professor of New Testament, Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary, the Venerable Callie Walpole, the Reverend Canon Mark Stevenson, Dr. Scott Bader-Say, Dr. Keith Barron, Ms. Kayla Massey, and the Reverend Rob Brown have given generously of their time on our Leadership Day, calling us to dialogue and a more profound understanding of the blessings of our differences and their place in God's call to us, building up the body of Christ in this place. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the clergy and people of the 94th Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Upper South Carolina do hereby extend and proclaim our thanks, gratitude, and appreciation for their inestimable contributions to our endeavor to serve God in this place and time. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. The chair recognizes the Reverend Charles Smith.
You changed.
Right, Reverend and dear sir.
Wait.
I told you you should have put it in your pocket.
Whereas your fancy hat is not available, I'd like to offer mine to you to finish up the convention for us. It looks good on you. I'd also like to say I know there's a really important game kicking off soon. Go Gamecocks, so I will be brief. But I've spoken to a number of people. I can confirm that the elections were not rigged. There are no bad hombres or nasty women certified for us, including me and Rob Brown. You're welcome.
Point of order on Rob Brown.
Right, is the point of order in order, I guess is the real question. But thank you all for a great time, and well done you. No, it was great. Keep the hat on, though.
The hat's on.
Go Gamecocks.
Thank you, Charles. The chair recognizes...
Sorry, Drew. I have written instructions. They want you to read this portion. The script will be on the lectern. No tweaking. Okay. Right, Reverend Sir, it gives me great pleasure to invite the 95th Annual Convention of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina to assemble at the Church of the Advent, Spartanburg, on the weekend of November 3rd and 4th, 2017. Please refer to this green sheet in your packet if you need more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear, hear. One announcement about our General Convention deputation. Furman Buchanan was elected as head of the deputation. Regina Rattery will be our first alternate in the lay order, and Patricia Sexton our first alternate in the clergy order. The chair recognizes the Reverend Canon Drew Hazel, the Bishop's Convention Officer.
Right Reverend Sir, I'm pleased to report that all business on the agenda for the 94th Annual Convention of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina has been dispatched by this convention, and hopefully we'll clean up before kickoff.
I want to reiterate my appreciation to St. John's, the rector, staff, volunteers, Michelle Rabin, Margaret Axon, for their warm hospitality this weekend. I also want to thank diocesan staff, and I want to name them and have them come up here when I do, okay? I'd like to have Frank Ballard, Tracy Foreman. See, Cynthia Hendricks, I think, is not here today, is that correct? Correct. Ms. Anna McDermott, Mary Sweet, and Karen Hancock first to come up. These are our support staff. And I've got to tell you something about these folks. These guys do more than you can possibly imagine. And I am so grateful to have every one of them as a part of this staff. So please give all of them a hand. Now, I'm going to invite the canon staff to join them. Canon Drew Hazel, Canon Carrie Graves, and Canon Kelly Wilson. Where's Kelly? I don't see Kelly. There she is back there. These folks are just amazing, so thank you all. I got to say that every one of these folks thinks of every one of you every day. They really, really care so much about making your congregation, resourcing your congregations, and helping us all to know what it means to be a diocese. Thank you so much. In addition, I'd like to recognize and thank Dr. Earl Birch, who I think has left. Is that correct? Yeah, this is Earl, coordinator for Project Conj Haiti 2025, and the Reverend Susan Heath, the coordinator for the South Carolina Bishops Public Ed Initiative. Where is Susan? There she is back here. Thank you, Susan. thank you all for helping to address the business of this convention. And at this time, let us stand and sing the closing hymn. Lift every voice and sing. It's in your convention packet. The 94th Annual Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Upper South Carolina is now adjourned.